I found out my sister slept with my boyfriend because she left her hair tie in his bed. It was small, purple, slightly stretched, with a tiny silver star dangling from it. At first, I didn't want to believe it. I held it in my hand and stared, hoping somehow I was wrong. But deep down, I already knew. My name is Alyssa, and I'm 26. Until that morning, my life felt stable. I had a steady job at a marketing firm, a small apartment I had carefully made feel like home, and a long-term relationship I thought was solid. Jake had been my boyfriend for almost 3 years. He remembered the small things, how I liked my coffee, my favorite takeout, the way I folded laundry. He was thoughtful in ways that made trust feel natural. Emily, my younger sister, was a different story. We weren't close growing up. She was impulsive and emotional, and I was careful and structured. But over the last few years, we had started to spend more time together. She would come over on weekends, we'd sit on my couch, drink cheap wine, and talk about everything from work to our relationships. Those evenings felt easy, like we had finally figured out how to be sisters without all the old tension. Jake and Emily got along, which I initially thought was a good thing. I wanted my sister and boyfriend to coexist without conflict. I wanted my life to feel seamless. But now I see that was naive. Looking back, there were small moments I should have noticed. Tiny glances that lingered, jokes that excluded me, conversations that went on a little too long when I walked away. But I chose to ignore them because I didn't want to imagine the truth. One evening, a couple of months before the hair tie incident, I walked into the living room while they were talking. They paused when they noticed me. Emily quickly covered, saying she was telling Jake about a trip she had taken last year, and he nodded. I laughed it off, but a small knot of unease had formed in my chest. After that, Jake began guarding his phone more closely. At first, it was subtle, turning it face down, keeping it near him, but eventually, it became obvious. Notifications made him tense, and he would check messages in a way that felt deliberate, almost secretive. Emily's behavior shifted too. She started texting me more, but her questions seemed oddly precise. What time will Jake be home tonight? Did he go to the gym today? At first, I thought she was being friendly, but over time, the details she seemed to know about him made me uncomfortable. I kept choosing the easiest explanation for everything. Overthinking, coincidence, harmless mistakes. Each rationalization made it easier to live in denial. Then came that Saturday morning. It was quiet, one of those rare mornings where nothing felt rushed. I cleaned my apartment, did laundry, and changed the sheets. Jake said he might come over later after spending time with friends, which was normal. Emily hadn't contacted me at all that day. When Jake arrived, we ordered takeout and settled in to watch a movie. The night was ordinary, uneventful, comforting in its simplicity. I remember thinking how normal everything felt, how perfect that normality was. But that comfort made the next discovery all the more devastating. The following morning, I woke early and decided to change the sheets again because of a small food stain. That's when I saw it, the purple hair tie. My hands froze. I already knew whose it was before I even picked it up. When Jake stirred, I showed him the hair tie and asked where it came from. He tried to brush it off, suggesting it might be mine, but I insisted it belonged to Emily. Silence fell between us, heavy and uncomfortable. He shrugged, claiming things can get misplaced. I wanted to scream, to demand the truth, but I forced myself to stay calm. Later, when he went to take a shower, I picked up his phone. My hands were trembling. I told myself I shouldn't look, but the need to know was stronger than the fear. I unlocked it, scrolling to find Emily's name at the top of the messages. The conversations were intimate, casual, shocking. They had shared private jokes, references to moments I wasn't part of, planning to meet, being careful. I realized this wasn't a mistake. This was deliberate. They had been hiding it from me, building it quietly over time. As I scrolled, I saw messages going back months. Not just a few weeks, not something impulsive. Months. Almost 8 months of secret conversations, of planning, of lying. And then I found one message from Emily sent just hours before Jake came over the night before. She asked if I suspected anything. He replied that I trusted them. That moment was surreal. The betrayal wasn't just about sex or intimacy. It was about trust, secrecy, and the people I believed I could rely on. It felt like a small bomb had gone off in my chest, shaking everything I thought was solid. I didn't confront him immediately. I waited. I tried to process it, to breathe, to figure out my next step. The quiet of my apartment seemed unbearable, each second stretching into eternity. I replayed the past months in my head, the subtle changes, the small glances, the way they spoke when I wasn't looking. Every tiny detail now had a meaning I had previously ignored. I remembered how Emily sometimes borrowed Jake's hoodie and came back smiling, how she lingered in the kitchen when he cooked, and how their laughter sometimes trailed off when I entered the room. I had chosen to ignore all of it. Eventually, I made a decision. I needed to confront Emily first. I needed answers, even if I already feared them. I texted her, asking if she could come over later that evening. She agreed casually, which made my stomach twist. When she arrived, she walked in like any other day. I could see the familiar gestures, the easy smile, the way she dropped her bag and greeted me. But now, I couldn't see her the same way. I held up the hair tie. Recognition crossed her face immediately. "It's not what you think," she said softly. "I've seen the messages, Emily," I said quietly. "How long?" She hesitated. The pause told me everything I needed to know. "Months," she finally admitted. I asked why. She said it just happened, that it wasn't planned. But I couldn't accept that. It had been deliberate, sustained, and hidden. I asked if it had happened in my apartment. Her silence was enough. That moment shattered something deeper than my trust in Jake. It shattered the space I had always felt safe in, my home, my routines, my sense of normal life. I told her to leave. She did, without arguing. Later that day, I knew Jake would come back. When he walked in, the weight of everything hung between us. I told him I had spoken to Emily. He didn't apologize immediately. He measured my reaction. I realized that whatever I had trusted in him was gone long before I discovered the truth. I told him it was over. Quietly, firmly. Not with yelling, not with dramatics, but with a clarity that left no room for argument. He didn't resist. That, more than anything, confirmed the finality. I stayed in my apartment alone after he left. Quiet. Heavy. Unfamiliar. I replayed the past months, noticing moments I had ignored, questions I had brushed off, signs I had dismissed. Every detail confirmed the reality I had been avoiding. It was not just betrayal. It was a deliberate, sustained choice. The people I trusted most had chosen to break me. In the following days, I avoided both of them. I deleted conversations, blocked messages, avoided social media notifications. I wanted to feel the emptiness, to process it fully, to face the truth without distraction. Even now, months later, the thought of what they did doesn't fade. It lingers quietly, shaping the way I see people, trust, and even myself. After Emily left, the apartment felt strange, almost foreign. Quiet, heavy, and unfamiliar. I sat on the edge of the bed, clutching the hair tie, trying to breathe. The anger was simmering beneath the surface, but what hit me first was disbelief. I couldn't believe they had done this. Not just Jake, but Emily too. I replayed the messages in my head, remembering the way they had laughed, shared secrets, planned things behind my back. Every memory I had of the past months seemed tainted. Every small detail I had trusted now felt like a lie. I remembered the mornings when Jake would run errands and Emily would text asking if I was home, and I had never thought twice. I paced the apartment, my hands shaking. I tried to focus on my breathing, counting to 10, but the thoughts wouldn't stop. Why? How? When did I start to be so blind to the signs? I remembered Emily borrowing my favorite mug without asking, the subtle way she commented on Jake's schedule, the time she helped organize my closet but moved things around. These small, seemingly innocent actions now felt like clues I had deliberately ignored. Hours later, I heard a knock at the door. My heart jumped. Jake. He had come back, and I didn't know if I wanted to see him or if I wanted to vanish. But the knock continued, insistent. I opened the door. He looked at me, his eyes searching mine for some hint of forgiveness or understanding. "Can we talk?" he asked cautiously. I stepped aside, letting him in, but my voice was cold. "We need to talk." "Sit." He sat across from me, hands clasped, looking uneasy in a way I had never seen before. I took a deep breath. "I know everything. Every message, every plan, every time you thought I wouldn't find out." He swallowed hard. "Alyssa, it wasn't supposed to happen like this." I laughed bitterly. "Not supposed to happen?" 8 months, Jake. 8 months of careful planning, hiding, lying. You weren't careful with fate. You were careful with me. He looked down. I could see the shame, the guilt, the realization that no words could fix this. I continued, my voice steady but firm. "Do you understand what you did? You broke me. You didn't just cheat. You destroyed the trust one had, the home I built, the life I thought we shared." He tried to explain, stammering through excuses and half-truths, but I stopped him. "I don't want to hear it. There's nothing you can say that will undo this. There's nothing you can do that will fix what's broken." Silence filled the room. It was heavy, oppressive, and I realized that silence spoke louder than anything he could say. He had made his choice, and now I had to make mine. "I'm done, Jake," I said quietly but firmly. "It's over. Not tomorrow, not when you think you're ready. It's over now." He nodded, defeated. There was no fight, no pleading. Only the quiet acknowledgement of the consequences of his actions. He stood up and left. The door closed behind him, and the apartment returned to its eerie, hollow quiet. I sat there for a long time, letting the emptiness settle. I thought about Emily, about how someone so close could betray me, about how easily trust had been manipulated. I remembered our attempts to reconnect, the small moments I had cherished, and now they felt like lies layered on top of lies. In the days that followed, I moved through the apartment like a ghost. I avoided social media, blocked Emily's number, erased conversations. I had to cleanse the space of their presence, of their influence. Every time I reached for my phone, I hesitated, remembering their messages, the secret laughter, the hidden texts. Sleep came fitfully. Dreams were fragmented, shadows of memory mixed with fear and anger. I woke up sweating, heart racing, replaying the betrayal over and over. But with each repetition, I began to notice something else, a quiet strength forming beneath the hurt. I remembered my own resilience. I remembered surviving other hardships, other disappointments. This was different, yes, but it didn't define me. I could not let them define me. The anger and heartbreak were mine to process, but they could not steal my identity. Weeks passed. The first time I went out with friends again, I felt fragile but alive. I laughed, carefully, but genuinely. I spoke about work, movies, trivial things. But inside, I was rebuilding, slowly, carefully. Every decision I made, every boundary I set, reminded me that I was in control again. I reflected on what had happened. It wasn't about hating them, not really. It was about understanding that some people choose their own selfish desires over the people who love them. Some betrayals are deliberate, thought out, and long-lasting. But understanding that didn't mean I had to let it destroy me. Months later, I met someone new. Someone who respected my boundaries, someone who valued honesty in the small gestures as much as in the big promises. And I realized that trust could be rebuilt, carefully, slowly. But the memory of Emily and Jake remained, like a shadow I could not ignore, a lesson I would never forget. Even now, when I think about it, the pain flares for a moment, sharp and unexpected. But I also feel gratitude for recognizing the betrayal, for choosing myself, for surviving. The apartment, once heavy and silent, now feels like home again. I have redecorated, rearranged, filled it with light and music, small signs of life and recovery. I don't speak to Emily. I don't speak to Jake. That chapter is closed. I carry it with me, yes, but not as a wound. As a lesson. As proof that even when trust is shattered, I can endure. I've learned something vital: betrayal changes the world around you, but it doesn't have to change who you are. It doesn't have to destroy your ability to love, to trust, to live. And in the quiet moments, when I sit alone and reflect, I remind myself of this simple truth: some people will break your trust, but that doesn't mean you have to break too. You survive, you grow, you learn. Because even after the deepest pain, even after the closest people betray you, life continues. And somehow, quietly, you become stronger than you ever imagined.